everyone's here. Turn around. I see Eric. I'm still echoing. I guess it's my Nope, not going on. Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to the organizational. Now again, it's always Jared. I want to put this on. Awesome. So I have work to do today. And it appears you too, Jared.
Yeah. Do I?
Where the hell are you?
I'm in, sadly, Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, I thought maybe somewhere exciting.
Not usually, but not this time.
Depends who you talk to.
Maybe he's in Berlin or something. Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have a motion to adopt our agenda? Adopted. Second. It is. Did somebody second that?
Yes.
I did.
Katie did. Good. All in favor? Opposed? Welcome, introduction and overview. Welcome.
Thank you.
Introduction and overview. Who is introducing and overviewing? Is that me? Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you, all your bright, shiny faces and avatars online. Our first order of business is, we're just going to go through this as quickly as we can because we have to do stuff. We're going to elect officers. Now, I see we have ballots here.
You don't have to.
I was going to say, do we have ballots? Does anybody have a suggestion as to who should be president?
I'll make a motion.
Second that? Anybody in favor?
May I make a speech?
Oh, gosh, it says it's not necessary, but go ahead.
I'll just spend seconds. So I think continuity is important. Consensus is important. And especially as we start going to 51. And it's very long. I think we've done nothing for all about keeping that is critical for us to so that's my hands.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A single person opposed. Vice President, well, I would say, I think Charles did a great job, kind of filling it. I was away, and I had up days here. So I'm going to nominate Charles. Yes. Etc. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Secretary. Nominate Katie. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Now we have to figure out who's going to be treasurer. We have another nomination. Bill. All righty. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you all. Now we'll turn the meeting over to the new president.
Congratulations.
That may be the fastest officer appointment in the history.
Thank you. All right, code of conduct. I guess we need a motion to adopt the code of conduct. Yeah. Anybody get a chance to read it?
Has it changed at all?
Same as last.
Jared, we are having an echo in the room, so I have the volume down. If you're talking, just do that little hand raise. I think we're not hearing. Might not be hearing.
Okay, my only question was, if it's the same, then I motion to accept it if that's an action that we need.
Do we? Yeah. I guess we do need that. Is it the same? It's the same, correct? So motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Not a single. Appointment of celebration joint committee members, nominations.
I would like to.
I'd like to try this year. If anyone doesn't.
I don't mind. Charles?
Jared.
I wanted to recommend that we keep consistency from the last time because we are at a pretty important negotiating point that we've finally gotten to a point where there's not contention with Kanoa. And so I do want to recommend that Eric and I stay on CJC.
I think that's a very reasonable recommendation because I agree consistency is really important. And so we have three nominees. Any others? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, motion carries. Our various liaisons, who wants to stay and who wants to go? I guess is the question. Art.
That's it.
You have done an extraordinary job. Do you hate it or do you like the people? I'm putting you on the public record.
The committee has done all the work. I'm fine with saying art.
Right?
Can I nominate myself for art?
Okay, you're nominated. Second, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Communications. Katie, you want to keep it?
Well, it's hard.
Do you guys want it? Communication. Come on.
I'll do it.
Okay, Katie, second, all those in favor of Katie, communication. Aye, opposed? Covenants.
That's currently under me. I don't mind staying on it. Stay out.
Anybody else want that?
If anyone wants it, there's another vote.
Motion for charge.
Motion, second, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Charles, dog park?
Me.
You want to keep it?
Yeah, I'll keep it. Unless anyone is passionate about it otherwise.
Is anyone doggy passionate? Nope, it is, the nomination is Jared, second, Eric, all those in favor? Opposed? Finance, well, of course, that needs to be our treasurer, I believe.
Yes.
I'd also like to be the
Bill,
liaison for that.
Second,
Wait. I'd like to be the liaison for
What?
finance.
Hang on, Jared.
can't hear you, Jared.
I'd like to be the liaison for finance.
You would?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I did not know that. All right, we have two nominees. Let's just.
Originally, there was finance liaison and treasurer, and I think there's some value having.
Okay.
So,
Where you look, Bill?
Jared wants to be.
All right. Second for Jared?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Jared. MPAC.
I would also like to be the MPAC liaison.
I recommend Jared. He's doing a great job with the
I agree. Second for Jared?
I'll second.
Katie seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Parks and Rec. Marco, second?
Are you okay being correct? No, this is a serious question. With having the relationship already with people that we're on.
I'm okay.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
And he won't be a voting member, so there won't be a vote.
No, I just want to make sure that it would be all. Okay. Yeah.
Second on Marco?
I second Marco.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Marco. Special. Marco? Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody. Tech.
I nominate Bill.
Bill Long. Well, that doesn't make sense. Second?
Jared second.
Jared second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Service area, I think Charles really took this one by the horns and really hang cattle, these cattle. I nominate Charles.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Artisan Park.
I was going, I mentioned it earlier, and it's not added to surface areas, I was gonna say, surface areas, I would. But the way that artisan surface area, and it doesn't really require designated liaison, but I would say take away the liaison role altogether, and if there is something for liaison to outlet. So I was recommend that artisan park goes under surface areas.
We probably for the artisan park. It's a service area, but it's not a service area. Technically, all we kind of every they operate to do is a different compared to services. Proper service areas, city structure. I think it's just too much. bundle of services. I think ABC was part of a lot.
No, it's not, that's why I just don't know if like I reached out to them and asked them if it was something that they still wanted. Bill Madden checked with the committee, I reached out to times, and there's been zero response, so sometimes no response is a response. So that's why.
So
They-
should we, something built,
And
Yeah, let's eliminate that as liaison. All those in favor of eliminating Arts as a liaison?
Aye.
Opposed? Did we motion that? Yeah, you motioned it. Yes, you did, and you seconded it, sure. Or you motioned it and you seconded it.
Could do it again.
That's right. Condo Council, nominate Eric.
Yeah.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that's Eric. Now we move on to CCDD. Bill,
Yeah, I'll second that.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Bill, foundation, I'll do the foundation.
I'll nominate Don for foundation.
Second,
Can we maybe, with foundation, would we maybe want to take a step back and call that more of a philanthropy?
Yeah.
So like, we've got Embrace, we've got the foundation.
No,
we've got
no.
Get to the World.
no, do not, no,
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 no.
fine.
I'll do foundation, but I'm not gonna do all those other philanthropy things. Unless I can make my wife do it all.
Motion for Debbie to.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? School district, anybody want to liaise with the school district, which in the future could be somebody different? Looks like it's funny, we've got Jay running again. And I think,
Greg.
Greg, yeah,
Greg is a brain. Can I ask what this person does?
I don't think anything.
We met with Terry, so I'm CD&E right now.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And it's basically not even like a real role. It's just someone that we try to set up quarterly touch points with Terry. We try to set up quarterly touch points with Peggy. There's not really a lot there, honestly. It's just, and if someone else wants to take it, by all means.
No, I nominate Charles for CD&E. Second,
Second. Do
all
you
those in favor?
want that?
Who cares?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, you have been railroaded into that job. Let's talk about the big stuff. The stuff we're gonna focus on this year, as I'm sure I've said about 1,000 times. Number one, we need our staff and our community back in 851 as soon as we can make that happen.
So with the 851 building, one of the things, and Bill and Marco, I think you guys are relatively up to speed with it. We have the ongoing discussions of CALIC right now going on. We've voted to move forward with the next phase of that. I guess my question now is I feel at the last board meeting, and I assume we're all still aligned, I guess I'm putting you guys on the spot now, that we're fixing the building. There's going to be a refresh of the interior, but the shells remaining the same, overall, and then we kind of want to move forward with it. Is that still relative consensus?
I believe that's a consensus because the other thing is we've talked about impact.
Right.
And them, one of their very near future projects is a new civic center of some sort.
Right.
Some further information, CALIC will be on the call for the discussion item of 851 at your workshop next Wednesday and ready to present a little bit on the schematics, interior design, and answer any questions.
Yeah, my understanding is based on previous votes that yes, we are going forward.
The other consideration too, at least from what I've seen in the finances, if we did something larger with 851, that hurts our ability to finish phase 2 and 3 potentially of the master plan,
Sure.
just based on what we've seen. It's not to say that there's not, because community centers also in there too.
Sure.
We're down phase 3, so that's also, I think, part of the considerations.
Can we have a quick update on the timeline for 851 and like what CALIC still needs to do?
So they are about 90% complete with schematic design. So that's all the interior floor plan, which they're going to go on over on a very high level during the workshop. The kind of furniture package, they're working through. They have it down to a conceptual level, and now they're kind of working through those next steps. Then they've already, next week, they're starting the site surveys that were just approved by the board at your last meeting. Then they will once the schematic design pencils are down, which they almost are, they will start the engineering design drawings.
So basically, the timeline that we were kind of discussing at MPAC last time was probably like a June, July RFP for construction bids. And then, month to months in terms of getting bids back, reviewing them, discussing those, and then approvals in September-ish for a vendor.
Question about that. Is Calic looking at a timeline that would allow us to gradually begin using the building before it is complete?
So we have.
100% complete.
We have not discussed that with Calic.
Oh.
However, we will in depth, we have mentioned it to them, but we did discuss that at MPAC, and Mark believes that there is a circumstance where we could have the interior finishes completed, staff moving in and still be working on the exterior.
So we're gonna talk to Calic.
Mhm.
Not a full.
Yeah.
So I know that they need to have the engineering documents and the schematics and all those pieces down in order to do the formal RFP. I assume they have a short list of people that they're gonna ask to bid on this, or we're gonna send it out. I guess what I'm trying to say, is there anything that we should just start doing now, knowing that we're gonna start marching down this road? Because eventually somewhere in here, we're gonna need to do another community presentation on this, correct? So what I would hate to be is that like, oh, we're ready to go. Now we got to wait a month because we got to get a community presentation in for the envelope. And there's a part of me that kind of goes, we know the envelope's going to be big. So we go with a big number and then move forward from there. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how we pull forward.
That's a fair point. We're in only schematic design. Once we start construction drawings, I think that'll be a month timeline, and we can be working congruently with that. But without even starting construction drawings, we're a little ahead of anything that would actually be substantial.
I think what Eric's probably referring to is like in the spring, before we go to RFP, is just having some idea, giving some sort of a presentation, a broad outline. Is that what you're saying?
I think in terms of to meet your 3.17U obligation, you're gonna have to have the hard numbers
So we'll
back.
have to have the RFP back.
Putting that presentation together, we can draft it up and get with rough numbers. But in terms of actually doing the presentation, you're gonna need to wait for those construction bids to come back.
But so we're going to need to have two presentations then, right? Because the RFP is going to exceed that amount anyway.
I think the other thing we probably,
Issuing the RFP,
Issuing our,
Issuing the what does Calic charge us for that? Is that going to be?
it will be under $200,000 to issue the RFP.
we've already got it. That's under the,
But is that under the existing piece, or is that, I'm trying to find out.
So if you want Calic to PM the whole build out, then that's an additional piece on top of what their original.
and you're
build
saying
is.
that would be under 200.
I would.
I would hope,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
of course.
yeah,
that's actually, so do we have are they acting as owner's rep for the project too?
We haven't decided.
So we did choose them to owners rep, well, not you, but
Pickleball.
the previous board did choose them to owner rep the pickleball
Correct,
project.
yeah.
And they were a good partner on that one and did run that RFP process well. So, but I mean, we would probably get 2 other bids to do that because it's definitely gonna be over $10,000.
Is that something that SAG is also discussing?
They
Owner's
have
rep?
not discussed that yet, but we will put it on their
Yeah.
upcoming agenda.
Because I don't feel comfortable granting, no offense.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot.
No, I think it should be unpacked.
So
That's
an
impact.
RFP for, owners.
Owners rep.
owner's rep.
But again, if that comes in under the 2, we don't have to do the community presentation. And then the community presentation would probably not be until August. September.
Probably
I
August.
think that's all. The one thing I think that we haven't done a great job of, this is the board, not MPAC at all. I don't know if the community knows what we're doing with this thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we've had like kind of bits and pieces of what we've been doing, but I think we really need to,
Well, then let's make that on the 12th, because with Calic here making a presentation.
Yeah.
That's first
We can
step.
highlight that in the Monday Matters as well.
That they're gonna be.
Yes.
because I think we're gonna need to need time for.
Yeah. There was a piece in the Monday Matters for a little bit on like
Yeah.
851. I think that was helpful. So if we could maybe put that back.
Because I also think when we do the presentation, we don't want people to be caught by surprise with what we're doing, because I feel like that could be. Yeah,
Right. I guess my piece with it is that if we're going to go out and we're gonna look for owner's rep, or if there's any piece where we have to work a timing of a presentation or work a timing of an approval, it's like, are there pieces that we can do now? I mean, to Jared's point, we kind of can't do a lot without the drawings. I get it. But if there's other pieces in this that we want to try to move forward, or at least a community that we're doing.
I will say that MPAG is keeping on top of that, and they're providing
Okay.
things to management and to the board here in time so that we're not wasting any time.
Okay.
And as far as the community goes, there are people still thinking the possibility of tearing down the building is on the table. So
I get that a lot, like, what are you doing with 851? I don't know about everyone
And
else.
again, I think that's something we can make really clear at the next workshop. This is our first, because here's our first step. This is what we're planning to do. Yeah.
So in Monday Matters, we'll notice the community that a big portion of, well, not a big portion, but part of your workshop will be discussing the future of 851.
Yep.
we fly an airplane with a flag around the community so everybody sees.
She's communication.
Can you- What's the budget for that? So can we, have like a summary of what the board
Where
has,
we're at,
like
yeah.
a couple sentences, and then what will be discussed?
Okay. Anything else on 851, folks?
Partner programs right now, so they're out anyway, right? So from a revenue perspective, we're not utilizing anything anyway. I'm just trying to be two from a budget when we start going into.
I mean, as many of the partner programs as we can accommodate are being accommodated in the other amenities, but,
But we are short soon.
but yeah, you did lose one of your largest partner programs, X Factor.
All right, master plan.
So
This is
they're moving forward with splash pad. We all know how that's going. The next project they're looking at is multi-purpose courts. They're actually ready to go on that, and they're so efficient that we're kind of holding that a little so that we're not pummeling master plan projects over and over. So in April, we'll see their initial direction as far as multi-purpose courts, which isn't a project until 2026, but they want to start moving things with that in August. So we'll get initial information in April at the April workshop as far as what that involves, what the idea is, what the concept is, where we can all provide feedback to that.
And Jared, on that, what's the time? I can't recall. I'm getting old. What's the project next up after the multi-purpose?
That's right, passive parks, yes.
Passive Parks, okay. That's runner. All
Which they're
right.
also working on at the same time, and we'll have information on that sooner probably than we're ready for it. So
Perfect.
Gary, is that going to be another Joe managing purpose? What's you got that?
they've broken up all of the next 3 to 5 years of projects into stakeholder groups. So each one has a different individual. Joe will not be the one for multi-purpose courts because of splash pad interfering with like the design phase. They're all taking it on like individual kind of project leads on each of the different scopes. So it won't be Joe for the multi-purpose courts.
All right.
I think it may be Mark, but I'm not sure.
Mark and Jim.
Yes.
He did.
Yeah, that's right. He did this lot. Great. Okay, thank you, Jared.
Yep.
Island Village, I would assume this is talking about the next phase.
Did we hear anything back about the, like, possibly splitting the heater?
I reached out to him, and he has not responded. So I'm trying to set up another call with him so we can talk about it and who we can talk to in the higher up realm.
Do let them know when you discuss that with them, that given the fact that they've got new houses coming online, it's going to give them a very, very inexpensive, powerful sales tool to say that the Island Village pool is warm in the winter.
Can we also maybe, for the purposes of Marco and Bill, can you refresh everyone's minds of how phase 2 and 3 and what's coming next and who's owned by what?
Yeah, so phase 2 for Island Village, and I will share the schematics and the documents in the board teams folder for you guys. Phase 2 will have passive parks that are owned by CROA and an amenity center. The amenity center will have a multi-purpose room with a little kitchenette, a playground with a shade structure over it, a pool, and a gym. Pardon?
Bathroom.
And bathrooms, yes. And bathrooms that are accessible from the inside,
Yeah.
from the gym.
The next island is gonna have another pool.
Yes.
Wow, they're very close together.
That's the last amenity center that's going into Island Village. There will be townhomes and single-family homes, no apartments, no condos.
How many homes?
2A is 87 and 2B is 300 some odd.
339.
Yeah, 339. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Phase 3 will be a small pocket and will only be single-family homes, will not have any townhomes. And I don't think there are any passive parks that CROA will own in there. It's mainly just homes. Phase 4 is the last phase. That will be another smattering of single-family and townhomes. I don't have a number count for that.
It's a big piece of land.
But it will not have an amenity center. It will have passive parks that we will have. And I don't think they're adding another playground or anything like that. That's not been contemplated at this point.
We'll get the amenity center in 2020.
They're planning to pass the amenity center to us in middle of 2026. Yes.
And Charles, where the pool heater started conversations was what we've been informed by a lot of residents reaching out to us about getting a pool heater at Island Village Phase 1 is that they were sold a resort style amenity center with a resort style pool so they had the assumption it was heated. So we asked that when in the preliminary drawing overview of the new amenity center that they look at a heater, and if they don't put in a heater, that they at least change their their marketing to that it will not have a heater, so we're not receiving the backlash on it. And that's then where it was prompt a possibility shared approach.
Yeah, because then they could market heated.
Yes.
Didn't they market the gym 24/7 also?
Well, so the problem with the gym is, so the Phase 1 of Island Village, the amenity center there was built by the apartment complex, and that was an agreement between them and Mattamy.
Yeah.
The apartment complex did that so they wouldn't have to build an amenity center within the complex so they could have more doors and more space. One of their sticking points with Mattamy and TCC was they wanted the gym to be open 24/7 for the apartment residents. We still have not opened the gym 24/7 because none of the other amenities in Celebration are open 24/7.
No.
Now, again, I don't know this number, but installing a pool heater from scratch, do we know a ballpark with that?
The numbers that we got back for geothermal for the other pools was in the, what was it?
I lived in-
130 range.
Yeah, it was over
So
100.
basically, in the grand scheme of building, that's pennies, since they're not gonna have any maintenance costs, all the maintenance, all the maintenance and the electric bills are on us.
Correct.
Doesn't that village have natural gas?
They have natural gas out there, yeah.
Yeah.
Depending
Which
on
is
the
even
depth
cheaper,
of the
yeah.
pool though, based on what we've had conversations with Christian, geothermal still might be the way to go.
Natural gas isn't ran out to our pool equipment at the current amenity center either. So if we wanted to put in that, we'd have to run the lines to it.
How do we make sure we don't lose traction on the conversation with Mattamy? Just because they're moving pretty quickly with a lot of this.
I've been peeing him.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, because I'm of the opinion that, given the fact that we now have better resources for amenities, that in Florida, it's foolish to have pools that don't have heat.
Well,
Because they sit empty half the year. You've got an asset that requires care and yet doesn't get used.
yeah, I think the other piece for me, and while I would love to have either Mattamy pay for it or do a cost sharing agreement with them, I would rather, I have a feeling that we're likely going to look at heating pools in the community within the next 3 years. It's going to be something that we're going to try to tackle. It's a lot easier to tackle that when we don't have to replace landscaping, even if it's just a $10,000 savings, that we're not having to replace grass and bushes and all that jazz. The other piece of this is of going the geothermal route. When we did the geothermal here, the biggest challenge that we had here in Lakeside was finding a spot for the wells. because it wasn't contemplated in the original design.
So you're saying the next center should have that at least built into the design so that if they won't add it, we can add it.
To the point where if we say we're going to pay for this outright, right up front, it's still going to be less to us. I mean, sure, let's talk to Mattamy, figure out how we can get it. It's a benefit to their residents, but I'm of the mindset of we need to figure out how to do that. Now, that's going to be an interesting dance that we're going to have a little bit because it's a brand new building, brand new amenity center. We're putting in a brand new heated pool. And then you have somewhere like North Village, which they've been there for a while and we haven't talked about heating that at all.
But I think we should.
So, but it makes sense to do it during the construction phase. Is kind of the argument that I would have.
Well, the other conversation you can have is also proximity to a heated pool.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing we could do is ask Madam, please, the new pool, heat that, and then we'll discuss. We'll take care of if we need to, the
Yeah.
other island.
Yeah, maybe that's
Yeah.
the negotiation.
Exactly. You guys need a heated pool down there because it's miles to the closest heated pool. So
Right.
your next one should be heated. And then we'll deal with, if eventually we want to add heat to the other north or to the other island and then to
Yeah.
north and to east, we can do that.
Yep.
Okay? Anything else on Mattamy? On island? I don't know what other is. Does anybody have any others?
I'm gonna make a recommendation. Last year, we had a whole workshop on the strategic goals for the board. And I was looking at those and we've made progress with each and every one. But I don't think they're like 100% accomplished. So I was gonna suggest we keep working towards those same goals this year as well.
I think that makes sense because it was none of these strategic goals are rarely 1 year doable. I mean, the fact that we got a lot done is a testament to focus, but yeah, I think that's very wise. Rather than take on a lot of new things, let's fix the things we set out to fix.
I think the other thing too, we can add on to that, the strategic goals. I know something I'm really thinking a lot about going into this year is continuing to really double down on organizational health.
Oh, good, that's coming on.
Okay, yeah,
Look at that.
good. So
That's number 9.
I would just say we can potentially look to add that in, that we're really gonna, make sure we're continuing to have happy, motivated and engaged.
That's a lovely segue.
It's a great segue.
Into number 9, which is board operations and communications and healthy board operations and healthy board management operations and healthy board management community relationships.
Beautiful.
All right, what would you like to start us off with?
I think you had a very good conversation last year around emails. I think I think we have to start there and then maybe kind of pull on it a little bit. I think the email volume when we started out was very, very, very intense.
It's much lighter.
It's much lighter. So for Marco and Bill's purposes, you're going to have to get your feet under you around kind of what's been going on and everything going back and forth. There's probably going to be natural emails that you're going to have to ask and send things along the way. But I think your position, and I agree, is meetings, right? Meetings. is
Right,
what
that's
happens.
one of the things that we did is we have a meeting
Right.
literally every 2 weeks. Unless it rises to the level of a true emergency where there is a threat to life, limb, or property. We really don't need to discuss it via emails. We can bring it. We each of us have the opportunity to give something to these guys to put on the agenda to discuss.
Yep.
I think we should do that. When you've got something, you got a resident who's saying this is really a problem and we need to discuss it as a board. Remember, some of this stuff, each of us can individually go to them and go, this resident says this, and can you guys handle it? They can handle it. That email, I don't even know that it needs to go to the whole board unless it rises again to the level.
That was my question. I was gonna.
Yeah, do we all want to know about every little conversation we have with management? I don't.
So I don't think so.
I trust you're all grown-ups.
The only caveat that I will put to that is congrats as being the secretary. It's hard sometimes if you're trying to manage a conversation from an inbound email to the board, not knowing that it's already being discussed. Sometimes that's a little tricky because it's like we might get a spicy email come into the board and someone's frustrated about something, yet
How about this?
It's already being done.
Because the secretary is the response.
I was gonna ask a question on that.
Yeah, so therefore, if a letter comes into the board, which the secretary is responding, the secretary can just make a phone call to Lauren or Jacob, say, because they see the emails too.
No.
Oh, you don't?
Don't,
We're not
no.
in your-
Oh.
If it just goes to the, so
Okay,
it's.
well then, the secretary could send it to these guys and say, have you fixed this?
That's what
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, does the board want to be copied on? Like, if there is an email coming in to the board about, whatever questions or something like that. And I need to ask management kind of like, okay, what is the answer, or, what do you suggest? Does the board want to be copied on that?
I think it's been very helpful that Eric has copied us on them. Not that, none of us, we're not responding. We're just, it's for edification.
Yeah,
It depends too, if it's like a service area, you could just triage that and send it to me, unless everyone wants to see some of that stuff.
typically what I try to do, and this may not have worked for everyone, but the thought process to me was, if something comes into the board, we've all seen it, but you want to know that someone responded to the darn thing.
Right.
So I might say, if it's a service area issue, let's say someone has an issue with bamboo between the two properties.
It's hypothetical.
Funny.
Hypothetically,
It's hilarious.
someone would come into the board, we would say, yep, we're on this, we're dealing with it. Copy in, make sure, because obviously Charles' service area liaison is on that, but then that communication, then it's like, Charles is now gonna take this, and then.
So in the secretary's communication, it says, basically, this is a service area issue. It's been forwarded on to
We
them.
got it, we're working on it, but then, and then the rest of that doesn't really need to come back to the board.
Acknowledge and redirect.
Yeah,
Pretty much what,
Train your AI.
Yeah, I
And
guess
you're welcome-
the
You're
main,
also welcome to just push those to us to respond to as well, if they're more managed.
And you'll see all of us.
And I'll CC the board in my response, or Jacob will CC the board in his response to it. That's fine, we don't mind.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that's just leaving it basically up to the secretary, how forward it, find out if they can answer it for you. That's gonna, and if they can directly answer it, then that's less work for the secretary.
Or typically, if the resident emails the board and town hall together in one email, our practice is we do not respond as the board is copied on it.
okay,
So if you want us to, just direct that and we will.
okay,
So
so then,
I would caveat with that with, if it's, crow a board in their salutation, we don't respond to it. But if it says, hey, Lauren, or hey, town hall,
they copy.
and they copy the board in, then generally we're going to respond.
yeah,
You sometimes respond to them as well,
I
right?
would always typically try to acknowledge the fact that we heard you, even if we have absolutely nothing to do
Even
with
if
this.
it's directed.
So like a classic example, so if we have a program partner that has reached out to us about a concern that shouldn't rise to the level of the board, or really, we can't do anything about it. It's a management issue. We would say, hey, thank you. We got this. I see you also have our management team on here. Management team's gonna take it. If they don't respond, or you have a problem with the management team, yeah, by all means, reach back out to us, escalate as needed, but management team kick in, and then Lauren, Jacob, someone, whoever from management typically then picks it up from
Okay,
there.
now you're a tech geek. I know this for a fact. So tell the truth. Do you use AI for that?
I don't, every single thing. Now, and I get made fun of with the, thank you for reaching out, subject line, any additional.
Katie,
color.
you go ahead
Thank
and
you
use
for reaching
AI.
out again.
Use the first and last name though, so I mean, that's where.
First and last name. So first and last name, because I had a resident reach out to me one time that they had a hyphenated last name and I only used one of their hyphens by
Oh,
accident.
dude.
So I always now try to put the whole thing and keep it a little formal.
Hyphenated faux pas.
Yeah, I messed that one up.
So I do think that to the extent that we can try, going back to that, just if we can try to generally get off the conversations back and forth. Because then it takes time out of your day too, right? Because you're looking at the emails, it may not be necessarily something you have to action, but you have a full inbox, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And it probably continues to add to the pile when there are other strategic priorities. So that's just.
I would say the lower volume of emails has made it a lot easier for us to focus on day-to-day operations and get things done. Because even if we don't have to respond to the email, we're still reading the emails to make sure there's nothing in there that we need to respond
Yeah.
to or
Right.
And what's been helpful as
Jacob?
well is if the board has a general inquiry for management, but it's not super time sensitive. I've been getting some just say, can you put this in your manager report for the end of the week? That's so great because yes, I will love to address it, but knowing that I don't need to stop what we're doing to address the board's question, but I can give it to you in our weekly report that you'll receive every Friday. That's very helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's,
Jared,
I think I can speak for all of us that unless we say I need this now, you don't have to stop what you're doing to address anything that we ask. It's just please add this to your list in general.
Thank you.
Now,
Trash can.
I would like to just reiterate something we talked about, and we have really done a very good job with, but just because this is the organizational meeting, when we talk about healthy board operations, not board management, although it also applies. I want to thank everybody for the high level of respect and make it, and have all of us acknowledge that as a board, we need to always try to find a way to work together respectfully, treat each other as smart, bright, caring people, and not assume the worst, always assume the best. And if we can do that, then we can continue to have a good year. And then that spills over into healthy board management relationships, because then they don't feel like they don't feel like they're targeted by the board in ways that are not strictly business oriented. They're personal. That means did I say that well? I don't think I did.
We knew what you were saying.
You knew it.
What I'd like to bring up regarding these types of email conversations amongst the board and management is what would the board's approach like to be for weekends? In the sense, sometimes I've seen some conversations start in the weekends that necessarily don't need to be responded to until the start of the week. But then when other members start jumping in, it can kind of start taking a path. My approach would be that most of those, if allowed, are scheduled to send out at 8 a.m. on Monday, almost to allow every board member that equal right to their weekend, in that sense of it doesn't start running askew with it, but you weren't looking at it because it's on the weekend and now it's already down a road. That was just something.
Although to Eric's point, if you can look at the trash cans on the weekend.
Yeah.
That's on the list for the meeting.
I think so. So here's the hilarious part about that. For me, I still work full time. So it's the week is actually harder for me to respond to things than the weekend. So it's almost like, to your point, I'm making a conscious decision to say, hey, let me schedule this for Monday if it's for management, because I know that management isn't here on the weekend. You know, that's not, if it's not something that the building's on fire, you know, or those pieces. That I think is fair. And I think that that's where, like, we have a little bit more free time sometimes on the weekend to start to banter around, which then I think is where you're saying the conversation starts to go in a, you know, off in a direction that we really just need to wait for someone from management to be able to chime in. And it's not that you should be sitting there ready to go on, you know, Saturday afternoon to respond back to something that really is not time critical or sensitive.
So, yeah, that's.
So as long as the expectation is, even if there's an email chain going on something that is not an emergency, which I hope we don't have many of, that you guys don't have to use.
The thing is where it comes in is so when I started, I was answering emails 24/7 nonstop. And that's just not a sustainable practice. This year, I started not responding to emails on the weekend unless it was a mission critical issue or somebody called me, or I saw, and this was more in the beginning of the year, conversations started going back and forth and it just started spiraling. And then I felt like I needed to jump in and say, hey, this is what's going on and we're figuring this out. So I think that's what Jacob's really mentioning is when it's more of a management centric question, it's the weekend emails that kind of spiral. And this really hasn't happened in quite a while.
It hasn't happened in months.
But that's just one of those things where we just want to set our expectation levels in terms of, I mean, we do have our phones with us 24/7 on the weekends, mostly.
We're usually watching those
And we're watching
emails,
them,
so
but-
there is something that we need
Part of
to
it,
address.
on the organizational health front is healthy work-life balance. So the consideration too is we want you all to be happy and productive and be great teams. You have to be able to disconnect unless it's really mission critical.
That's why, I mean, they're paid the big bucks, so if it's mission critical,
Correct.
they need to respond, but they're both experienced.
Correct.
And I think they know that when something is absolutely critical, that be responded to. So
So
you
you
guys,
guys just need to recognize not to let it spiral out of control.
Yes.
We know management.
and I think we're really getting good at that. I do. I think we've been getting so good at that. I feel like everything has been far more healthy than it's been in years.
The one thing I would add too, if it's not
Oh,
healthy,
it's plastic.
Yeah,
but if it's not healthy, I think we've talked about this for a while.
There.
You both have to manage up
Mhm.
with the board. So if you need something or you think that we're stepping out of line, you need to have that conversation with them. I need you to stop sending these emails. I can't focus on this because I'm getting 50 emails. Don't be afraid to have those conversations with us. We need you again to be that top level. All right. That's just my.
Anybody have anything else on healthy board management community? All right, schedules. I would like to propose that we don't change anything. Agree.
So that's the proposed schedule that you have in your packet in front of you.
Does that work for everybody? That's a consensus.
Is there,
He was already there.
Yes,
is, no, I mean, I don't know. Is there
Oh,
any
go ahead, go
value?
ahead.
Is there any value to putting Board of Appeals? Because everyone's always saying, "Oh, I can't get there at that time. I can't get there at time." If
I
we put
can
Board
never
of,
get there.
if we put Board of Appeals after the board meeting, which also lets us have an 8 o'clock end to the board meeting. Because Board of Appeals is only at max 30 minutes.
That's gonna be hard. That's gonna be for residents at 8 o'clock to have the appeals meeting.
Well, they can't make it when we have it now. I think they have a better chance of making it.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Well, can we make a minor mod? Minor mod, we move the appeals to 6. Move the meeting to 6:30.
I think it's gonna work on this.
Yeah, my problem is, my job is basically on the West Coast. So 5 o'clock is middle of the day.
Why don't we keep it as it is? And then-
Do you want us to take it down to 5:30?
It should be done in an hour. Because sometimes I can make 5:30.
so my question is that if we were to move it to 6. I don't know, making the earlier time for me is struggling, is a little bit of a struggle as well. We can make it work. I think the catch is that it's always the exception with appeals. There's gonna be some month that we're gonna have like 20 of them. And then or there's gonna be one on there that's gonna be particularly extended. For the most part, they all happen pretty fast. So,
All right, here, let's run around the room. Let's do, 'cause I don't think anybody really likes 5. Let's say 5:30 or 6 for appeals meeting. Anybody have any strong opinions on one of those?
6.
6,
Five. Just because.
5:30, Bill?
No stronger.
Katie?
I'm good.
I would prefer 6.
6? Again, 6 is probably gonna be better.
That's fine.
I just, it's so hard when you've got one coming in at 2 o'clock Pacific time to get out.
So the other thing I've done a paid assignment is just to make sure you always have quorum, but this month it's these 4, this month it's this 4. So it's a rotation, so not everybody's obligated every single month to sit on appeals.
It's actually a really good idea.
Why don't we just do that and then we just sign up for appeals meetings?
So yeah,
And we don't have to.
yep.
I mean, we can still do the 6 o'clock, but that way it
The 6
gives you a
o'clock-
little bit of.
6 o'clock also cuts into our time.
Yeah,
We're
who
gonna look at an hour and a half.
who here is generally good with showing up at 5? Who can do that on a reasonably regular basis?
I can, but I, part of me worries, like, if I committed, like, 1, and that's the time there's only 4, and that's the time I have an emergency and I can't.
Is 5:30 generally better? I'm just trying to move it.
Most part, it's all kind of similar. 5:30 would probably be a little bit better, and it just sounds kind of.
I have an idea. Okay, when we have
I have
a
a
lot,
variable who's 10.
management can come to us and say, can 4 people make it at 5? We have a lot of opinions. Otherwise, we can really get generally 4 people to show up for 5:30.
I don't think we ever did that. Last year, we always had either 4 or.
Yeah, but we kept pushing the meeting later and later this last year. So like we've already been doing this. We've already been pushing this meeting later.
We need to.
Yeah.
if you
Five
can-
thirty.
5:30.
5:30, that's why I'm saying 5:30.
Unless.
We can, unless there's a big change.
So here's the one caveat, not caveat, but the color to this. Typically, ARC appeals, the ARC liaison, AKA me. I don't want to say we drive the motion, but that's where a lot of the history comes from and figuring out where the heck the ARC piece is.
Answer to where you're going with this. What if management reaches out to the ARC liaison and the covenants liaison ahead of the meeting? We align on a recommendation or at least a history, and
Yes,
it goes out to the board with the packet.
yes.
Wow, does that make it a rubber stamp process?
Because I think, and it's because the problem is that, because even with me, like for a covenants issue that comes in, I look at it and go, well, hell, this seems like it's logical to me, but I have no clue of the backstory on that until.
So you give a synopsis backstory.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so in moving forward, we can have Danica reach out to the liaisons and say, this is where we're coming from on this one, this one, this and this one. This is where what we're thinking. Do you agree or not? And then if it's to a point where management and the board are not in alignment, which there's rarely a case where we're not, then that can be put in the packet, but at least then the conversation has been had up front, so everybody sees that in their cover sheet.
Yep.
I think this is a great plan. How about we go 5:30, unless in an emergency, we have to go earlier. And we go with the management giving us a synopsis of recommendations, and then the process is going to move right along.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Consensus?
Consensus.
Okay, we got consensus. Awesome, guys. Administrative matters. Do we have any discussion items like committee resolution?
So the committee resolutions have been placed in your team's folder. They do need to be updated before we appoint new committees. We plan, unless the board has an objection, to launch the committee applications next week, service areas and committees, for appointment in your April meeting. So with that, you have the committee resolution, the master charter for the committees, which does have track changes, modifications to Exhibit A, which addresses the code of conduct, because when it was updated in 2023, treatment of staff was taken out of part of the code of conduct, and we're adding the
We're adding treatment of staff.
treatment of staff back into the code of conduct.
Why was it taken out?
I have no idea.
Board decision.
Yeah.
Bad decision.
Strange.
Yeah.
Must be.
The only thing on committees that I would like to float the idea on is Parks and Rec and special events. Do we want to start to look at combining those two?
Yes.
Because I think that there's a lot of overlap between the external visibility of what those two groups do. Parks and Rec plans events. So does special events.
Yeah.
And so I think if there's, I don't want to even say partnership on some of these pieces where it's like if they're trying to do something, do it together. Or if there's something where one group can learn from the discussion from another. And it's not saying take away the purpose of either of them, but almost bring them into the same conversation together.
Which
Now,
makes a lot of sense, but let's ask
but
Marco,
that, I
because,
kind of wanted to get your.
because he's liaising both committees.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts? How much overlap is there between the two committees?
because I might be totally wrong and I'm okay with
In
it.
terms of human beings generally?
I don't think you're completely wrong, but we have two completely separate groups. One is leading for Bar Victoria and doing a good job about parks and rec activities, bringing clubs together. So we already know what is going on with our parks and rec, dividing by clubs and partnership programs. In the other side, we have Dory leading the special events. She's doing a great job over there with Debbie. But in the end of the day, if you look in a big picture, they work together. But it's the same thing, basically.
Yeah, maybe to your point, maybe the best idea is quarterly joint meetings
Or a super committee where you.
or a super committee. But the thing is that maybe we need to delineate them a little bit better. Maybe the delineation should be, because to Marco's point, I don't know that special events wants to get involved in clubs and
No,
so
There is, from like just starting as liaison for special events, I I can't believe how much they do.
Mhm.
Like their meetings are 2 hours for like a committee meeting. And there's just so much planning that goes into these events. And then not only are they planning, for the events, but they're also spending time like going over each event, like what was good, what was bad. So I feel like it's like, there's a lot that they do. I just don't know if it would be too much to combine, like.
I just think there's enough differentiation between the purposes of them.
No, that makes sense. So I think,
That maybe if Park and Rec, if it's a public event, or I mean, a community-wide event, that they defer to special, or that they run it by special.
So I think to that end, the way we've restructured the town hall staff in terms of the both departments now feed up under one director, Nikki. And Parks and Rec was doing small community engagement events, which are now being run by the event and volunteer manager, Allison. So they will all be under one umbrella. And the partner programs, rentals, all of that is falling under Danny in terms of the Parks and Rec piece of it.
Got
So
it.
maybe where there was some clashes previously between the committees and some overlap, maybe with the restructuring, you won't see that as much.
that's good.
Where was that, like, was it just the overlap because there was some events by Parks and Rec now, like Kids Night Out?
They've tossed things over to Parks and Rec, like just because it wasn't considered a special event. So like the Porch and Yard Sale is an example
Mhm.
that they don't consider to be a special event. They bucketed it under Parks and Rec for whatever reason. I don't know why it was made that decision, but there's certain things have just kind of fallen out of special events and moved over to rec, and I don't think the other way though.
Yeah, and I think the other piece with it is knowing from the CJC side, it technically Kanoa should be involved in both of the meetings. If we want to try to make good on our promise to say we're going to involve them more, there's things that Parks and Rec does that could technically involve Kanoa. Classic example, Kids Night Out, Scoop is there. That's Kanoa, they're there with Parks and Rec. Same thing, a larger special event, there might be something that Kanoa wants to participate with there, or at least they need to be aware of it. So that we can say that we're trying to extend.
So that could just be a reporting thing at the CJC meeting.
Exactly, but I think that there needs to be communication from the committee level, or at least an awareness level enough that they get that we're at least inviting them to the table.
We have a Kanoa meeting in 2 weeks and we can see if they want to appoint a liaison to
Yeah.
Rec and special events to engage. I will say that our staff has really engaged with Kanoa, not only from the communications perspective, but from the event perspective as well. We're looking at doing events in each of the little Kanoa neighborhoods, for
Sure,
lack of a better term, especially since the water tower shops, this is their 20th anniversary this year, so we're gonna try to do something out there with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the discussions of CJC and the cost sharing, we've pushed this very firmly with our team to try to make sure we're considering and adding value to Kanoa in as much as we can do.
sure, okay.
It's not easy to understand.
Oh, yeah.
There is and we play this fine deviation line because special events, lifestyles is a CJC budget
Croa.
or Crow budget. I'm sorry,
Parks and Rec.
both.
Yeah, so the struggle is Croa's lifestyle budget and Parks and Rec budget is under Croa. CJC doesn't have an event budget. Kanoa does not have an event budget. It's something we'll discuss with them in their budget process this year. So, but
Given that they're
The
bigger than
event-
just Lexington.
yes,
Yeah.
the event staff is CJC staff. As are we and as are
How do you have an event staff with no budget, Warren?
So Parks usually take over the setup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec.
So- But well, because then CJC funds CCS, which is also run by the events team. So it's a tangled web we live in here.
It really is. It's all part of Disney's evil plan to make this place ungovernable.
We are working as a town hall team to try to make sure we're aligning with budgets where they fall, but also fulfill our obligations to all four entities.
Yeah,
How much of a time, so Allison is liaison to special events, right?
Yes,
And Nikki is management liaison to Parks and Rec.
Danny will be now.
Danny will be, okay. So is there also management time savings by combining them into two? Just by reducing number of meetings or anything on the back end, preparing agendas, anything consideration there? If not,
Question, I this have a question about management time. For like special events, I was gonna ask, like, there are 4 people from Grand Manners at those meetings. I don't know,
There doesn't need to be.
there's 4.
So I don't, it should just be, Allison should be the dedicated person. I think there's been a lot of turnover and change in Parks and Rec and Lifestyles lately that has led to the multiple management members being at those meetings just to ensure continuity and making sure things are running smoothly. I think moving forward, and I'll have Jacob jump in here, I think in an ideal world, in my ideal world, it would be Allison attending those meetings and running those. If she feels like she needs backup, then she can tag in Nikki or tag in Jacob.
I mean, I would say that you'd see 2. You'd see Allison as the manager and the coordinator, an open position right now, also attending, and that position usually scribes those meetings. I think it's important that they attend as that is their direction for their full workload. So they need to be involved in that. But as far as Nikki and myself, those are not necessary at all meetings. Right now, we've been like we said, we've been doing some restructuring. So our attendance, you have seen us attending those. But when I attend them, I'm just strictly there, just more of a liaison observer and not trying to actively participate in the meeting.
I know those meetings, I don't know if they're gonna stay from 2 to 4, but I imagine that's also like part of your guys' main day-to-day management operation. So I didn't know why there was 4 there. But yeah, I can see like that would eat into management time a lot.
Yeah, so it's recently there's been 4 just for continuity and to make sure things are running smoothly.
Okay, to Charles' question, would there be a big impact to management's workload if the 2 were combined?
So.
Okay, good. Then I think we're gonna stick with, what we're doing.
Thank you for the discussion.
Yes, it was a great discussion. Anybody have anything else that you feel needs to be discussed in an organizational meeting prior to our workshop next week? We're going to discuss a lot of stuff there too, because that's what we do is discuss.
No,
Nothing?
I will be bringing up, what I mentioned at the last meeting about just, we need to get a handle on, security and then facility, overall.
So you want that added as a discussion item to the, agenda?
Correct. And I do think that warrants, who's on CDD now? So
That's
Bill.
the liaison.
Right, yeah. So, but I do think that it warrants a formal discussion with CDD on just overall community security-ness.
Okay,
We tried to, so I think the problem too with that was they couldn't have some of those meetings in public. They called them shade meetings, I think is what they said, like for certain, like,
And I
it starts
think,
getting to the specifics.
yeah, totally get it. And I think that it's less about what we're actually going to do from this is where a security person's gonna be, this is camera placement, this is more above that. Like, what do we want to actually say we're going to be responsible for?
I think Kanoa would like to be involved in that discussion as well. from
Perfect.
my
Yeah.
Conversations with them.
Yeah, we tried to do that.
And so less about the tactical piece of it
more about the strategic.
and much more about the strategic piece of it, so that we don't feel like one person should be doing something over here, but the other person doesn't know that they should be doing that. All that jazz.
Let's add that to the agenda. Anything else?
We had lifeguard discussion to workshop
Yeah,
because we need to go, so for preparation, the legal opinion.
I
There is
think
one.
there was one,
Yeah.
but what mine's. But
Just say it.
I would say if the board feels like this is a new topic, maybe we should get a second legal opinion on it.
Well, the legal opinion was we can have lifeguards.
I thought it was,
We just can't have them on staff.
if they wanted lifeguards at like one pool, it should be at all of them for consistency.
It's my understanding so we can talk about this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
wait, hang on. Did we actually get a legal, did I totally?
Many years ago.
Yeah.
It was not recently. We didn't do it this.
This was the Jackson Mummy. There
It was a legal opinion.
was a legal opinion.
Okay,
Sorry, the Brian Kinsel board.
was it?
It's creepy.
I'm,
Oh,
I'm going to be totally bureaucratic in this. Do we need to vote as a board to be able to publicly discuss a legal opinion that was previously under executive session?
It probably shouldn't have been under executive session
Yes,
because it's related.
Then we're good.
No, but it's not, and it's not related to a lawsuit.
Okay, then we're fine.
And I like, this is from my understanding, it's from as a resident, like, this is what I heard, like, throughout the
Okay,
years.
okay.
So it wasn't anything.
Right.
My understanding for the past, I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
Go ahead,
No,
Mark.
My understanding for the past meeting that we had here during the Jackson Mumay and everybody. In that moment, I believe if we have a lifeguard here, we are responsible for that. If we
Sure.
don't have lifeguard here, you play for your own risk.
Right.
So what's the driving force behind the lifeguard discussion?
So park monitor, so we have budget for park monitors seasonally, right?
Yes.
Right now,
Well, this is the first year we have that. so-
right, so
Can
what,
you- I was just saying, can you explain that real quick? What,
yeah,
the new park monitor
So
season?
there are 4 seasonal positions that were funded this year, and this was out of recommendation from the Parks and Rec Committee because of all of we had a lot of issues with the pools last year. It's just been getting worse and worse and worse the last 3 years.
Mhm.
So their recommendation was 4 seasonal monitors to be roaming around the pools and be visible, checking IDs. Because right now, you don't have enough park monitors to do
that
justice.
now?
You have 2 full-time and
That's it.
and one part. But no, that's a big, yeah.
So we're hiring one more full-time, and then when are the 2 seasons, when are the 4 seasonals?
We'll probably hire them for, as soon as school gets out. Uh-huh.
Is this a discussion?
Jared has something.
I was just gonna say, is this a discussion for the workshop, not for organizational meeting necessarily?
Yeah, I agree. So we'll put it on the workshop for discussion, even if it's a short discussion, just so we discussed it.
Because we have to also, I think, explain more of what other job duties they do.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Like setting this
Put it
room
in,
up.
let's talk about, because it is a concern, with the lifeguards or pool monitors, whichever the answer is. The main concern, I don't believe, is swimmer safety because of the legal problems with, the liability.
Right.
I think the primary concern, and that's what most people that's why they're raising the lifeguard issue, is the pool usage by non-residents and.
Pool
problems.
amenity is then just having eyeballs on the amenity.
Yeah,
That's it.
eyeballs on the amenity. Again, which can go back to your concern, your security concern, because I do believe that some of this could be solved by technology.
Yeah, no, I think we just need to explore that.
I mean, I think a camera in the corner of a pool with a zoom on it that says, hey, I see you right there, you and the thing. Are you a Celebration resident?
Yeah.
Honest to God, I think we could do that.
So staff doesn't actively monitor the cameras.
It's
We don't-
reactive.
We don't sit there.
No, but I'm saying maybe there's a time when we do,
Motion activated.
when we
Well-
have a park monitor monitoring the park cam.
Yeah, you look at cameras that can do like people counting functionality, and if there's a large group, then it sends an alert. There's stuff that we can do.
Yeah,
So we can
anyway,
discuss.
Oh,
Yes.
Chris also says Grand Manners won't employ lifeguards for liability.
I didn't think so.
Yeah,
could we also talk about at the workshop civility pledge?
Civility pledge, yes.
a civilian pledge?
Civility pledge.
Oh, civility pledge.
You're talking about the volunteer civility pledge?
Yeah, yes.
There's a community-wide civility
That's-
pledge that CAI has, that's just, the board adopts the civility pledge, basically, and it's just kind of something that's in the
So
forefront.
you'll give us something to look at.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That sounds awesome. Anybody have anything else they'd like to add? Motion to adjourn? Honest. Second, we're adjourned. Thank you.